Хорошо. Слава Богу. Good morning, Kahal Kadosh, Chodesh Tov B'Siman Tov. Welcome everyone. Today, Monday, first day of Elul, second day of Rosh Chodesh Elul, corresponding to the 9th of August 2021. Today's class graciously sponsored by Abraham Sultan and family from New York. La'ilul Yishmat, his beloved father, Moshe ben Adel Alav Shalom. Iratzon that to the words of Torah, his neshama have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. So, as the Kahal Kadosh know this already for a few years, we follow properly some of the suggestions given to our great rabbis in which what should be the menu for the next 30 days. I'm not talking about the breakfast, okay? The breakfast, you see it with your own eyes. I'm talking about the menu of Torah learning among the different topics which are earmarked, suitable, and adequate for the month of Elul. And one of the most essential books that definitely made a difference in people's lives is the great book by the great Rabbi Moshe Cordovero by the name of Tomer Devora. I'd like to give, as I do the first and second day of Elul, to give a brief introduction to understand exactly what is Tomer Devora all about and what's the concept, who wrote it, and everything that happens in between. For those newcomers to our synagogue or visiting, please to understand exactly what is Tomer Devora all about and what's the concept, who wrote it, and everything that happens in between. For those newcomers to our synagogue or visiting, please be advised that this class is recorded live and broadcasted via itorah.com as we speak. That means that any noise, any comments, any question you do, it will be live recorded. And I do get occasional comments from wonderful people that say, Rabbi, tell the people in the class that they should eat and listen instead of talking. So I convey the message only, and we move right away to introduce the great work of Tomer Devora. We begin, I quoted inside in the main sanctuary for those that were in that minyan or the first minyan today, the great Shala HaKadosh, Rabino Yeshaya Halevi, known as the Shala, in honor of the book that he wrote, Shene Luchot HaBerit. This great sage, who was born in 1565 and passed away in the year 1630, gives the introduction to the Sefer Tomer Devora, and he explains as follows. The great Shala Kadosh writes that anyone who reads this book becomes a Ben Olam Haba. What does it mean, Ben Olam Haba? Literally it means a person that upon going back to the Creator, there will be a special place for him or for her. Let's clarify. Tomer Devora is not a book of Jewish law. There is no halachot discussed in Tomer Devora. The only topic discussed in Tomer Devora is all about self-improvement. How do I get to imitate God? There is a concept in the Perashiot that we read in the past few weeks. The Pasuk writes, Lalechet bidrachav uldobka bo. The Pasuk says, walk in the footsteps of God and cling yourself with the Almighty. And Rashi asks, how is it possible that a person can imitate God? Already the Pasuk says, Ki Hashem Elokecha El Kana Eshochelahu. God is fire. So it says a few examples. Rashi says, number one, emulate God, imitate God. Not in every way, because God's ways are beyond our comprehension. But we're going to utilize one pasuk from Micha, which is one of the 12 minor prophets, which is actually the fundamental pasuk of the prayer of Tashlich that we do in Rosh Hashanah, Mi el kamocha noseh avon, and from that verse we derive the 13 attributes of mercy, and each and every one of them teaches me a message to me and to everyone else, obviously, of how God conducts himself in that particular area, and I need to emulate or imitate God. It sounds more complicated than what it really is. But Be'ezat Hashem, we're going to conclude with the introduction in a few moments, and we're going to try to cover, hopefully, at least the initial statement of chapter number 1. The Divrei Haim, the great Divrei Haim of Sanz, he says as follows: the Lomed Besefer Hazeh, it says that the one who learns this book, Eno nifga mimahala hayedu'a rahamana lislan, he will not be afflicted by the known illness. Now, what is known the unknown illness? I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about, in Yiddish they call it yene machle, or in Hebrew they say mahala. They don't say the word that begins with a C, finishes with an R, and has 6 letters. So you use your own imagination. And it says, the Shalah HaKadosh says, let's clarify. Who doesn't love the segullah or the spiritual benefit that you learn this and you're going to be protected? It's like a spiritual vaccine. And I'm not talking about the vaccines today. It's a controversial topic, so we'll keep it to yourself. Go to your doctor, whatever your doctor tells you to do, you do. Don't ask me my opinion, please, because I'm going to tell you, go see a doctor. Obviously, right? There's certain areas that the rabbi must take a step back and say, speak to the doctor. Whatever the doctor tells you, go ahead and do. And now, but also, who doesn't want to have a guaranteed olam haba? All of our effort, all of our existence in the world is to go to olam haba after 120. The Mishnah in Masechet Sanhedrin, the one that we say every Shabbat in the morning, the pasuk there says, Kol Israel yesh lehem chelek le'olam haba. Every Jew has a share in the world to come. I'm not sure if they tell you really what that verse means. You know what that verse means? That sure, you're going to go to olam haba. The question is when. The question is when. Do you think that automatically the neshama comes and they tell you, come on down, the olam haba is waiting for you? Yes, it's a possibility. It's a possibility based on certain circumstances, based on the situations that a person endured through their lifetime, based on how they left the world, or based on investment. And I'm not talking about Robinhood or Coinbase or eToro, for those who understand. It's only your performance in Avodat Hashem. And this is what the Shalah says. The Shalah says, you want to get the benefits of learning this book, it's not just lip service. It's not only reading it, oh, I read my chapter of the day, I'm done. It's learning it, reading it, and trying to derive the lesson to bring us into our daily life. The second part of the pasuk says, Lalechet bidrachav uldobka bo, to walk in the footsteps of God. Rashi says on the spot, see how God functions in the world. The Torah, for example, begins with kindness. When Hashem created the garments for Adam and Hava. And the Torah concludes with Hesed when it comes to the burial of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Torah in Perashah Vayera tells us how God came to visit Abraham Avinu from the Berit Milah. That's the mitzvah of Bikur Holim. So we learn Bikur Holim, we learn Halvayat Hamet, we learn Malbish Arumim, which all of them follow under the banner of Gemilut Hasadim, performing act of kindness. The Gemara in Masechet Sukkah says, between kindness and charity, between Hesed and Tzedakah, Hesed is higher than Tzedakah. Why? Because charity is with money to a poor person and to a person that is alive. Kindness not necessarily needs to be with money. You can perform an act of kindness by giving somebody a ride, or by helping somebody crossing the street, or listening to somebody's problem, or trying to give someone a good advice, or lending money for somebody that has $100,000 and is short $20,000 in order to get a better rate in the mortgage. You see, that person has $100,000 is not called poor. But in this circumstance, he doesn't need the 20,000 to make a great deal, etc. So you can do Hesed with your body, with your speech, with your listening, with your money, and you can even do Hesed spiritually. You encourage someone to come to the synagogue, to come to a Torah class. You give the person a booklet, like the ones that we have behind me, or you give a person a CD. In the olden days, remember that? I'm the best salesman, I know that, thank you. You remember the olden days? We don't have any CDs there, no?
No more.
Now CDs are obsolete. So now we go to what? Apple Music.
Bring flashcards.
Okay, we need flash drives. All right, that's a great idea. Hazako Baruch Tiyeh will make a Mishaberach for you later. Okay?
I show you the box.
Yeah, there's a way to do it. There is a flash drive. There is a way to put 100, 150 classes for sure. So Baruch Hashem, technology exists. So with one booklet or one Torah class, we have no idea how much we change the life of the person. That's doing Hesed with your neshama. Spiritual kindness, not physical or financial. Not only that, it gets even better. You can help a needy person, or you can help a wealthy person. What do you think? Wealthy people don't have spiritual needs, don't have emotional needs, don't need to vent, don't need to be listened to for an advice. And not only that, the ultimate, the Gemara says, that you can do an act of kindness even to a dead person. You cannot give a charity to a dead person. You cannot. That's not charity to a dead person. Your charity means a person who needs the charity, an ani. But when you do something in memory of someone, you do a kaddish, you dedicate a class, you dedicate a book, whatever you do, la'ilui nishmat someone, you are doing an act of kindness to someone that is not around. But we understand that the neshama needs this additional boost of spiritual energy. So says the introduction to the Tomer Deborah Sefer, and it says that in the book of Tehillim, I don't have one, but it's fine. No need. In the book of Tehillim, if you look at the end of the book of Tehillim, you say a special Yehi Rason. And in that Yehi Rason, you say all the letters and all the names and all the holy words found in the book of Tehillim, may God put them together to achieve the spiritual Kabbalistic connotation that every word of the book of Tehillim has. This reminds me of a story that happened in the time of the Baal Shem Tov, that there was a young orphan that regretfully his father left the world when he was a very young child, and he did not know how to read. But his father told him, always go to the synagogue. Go. And he goes to the synagogue, and he doesn't know how to pray. And in those days, we didn't have, like we have today, Spanish books, English sidurim, phonetics, or transliteration, etc. So what did he do? He will go to the synagogue, stand in one corner, quiet, silently, and that was his prayer. But comes the day of Yom Kippur, and now he sees how everybody's praying out loud, and he barely knows the alphabet. So what does he do? He starts singing the alphabet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet. He finishes, he goes back. And then the Baal Shem Tov sees that this young man says to Hashem, God, I don't know how to read, but at least I'm giving you the letters of the prayer book. I'm throwing you the letters, you put them together the best way you want. It says the Baal Shem Tov, in the merit of this simple but meaningful prayer from the heart, the community was blessed with a magnificent year, and all negative decrees, God forbid, earmarked for this congregation, that means back then, were completely abolished due to the holiness of the prayer of the simple Aleph Bet. So says the Shalach HaKadosh that the Tomer Devora carries the same power with one exception, that the Kabbalistic benefit is not determined by the words of the book, but by the actions of the student. You follow me? In other words, we learned today lesson number 1. Okay, whoever applies it, automatically you get a bonus. What that bonus means, I don't know. I'm not saying there is an Amazon card, like we do the incentive program for the kids. I don't know what that bonus is. Can it be called protection? Can it be called salvation? Can it be called blessing? Can it be called longevity? Whatever bonus comes, we never say no, correct? So with that being said, I think that we're gonna go further, one more source. Even though we're not actually reading from the book, but we're just warming up to the first lesson of the book. We understand that Shamayim does gezerot. Gezerot in English means what? Decrees. Now, the decrees come in 2 different ways. A positive decree and a negative decree. You know that in the night of Rosh Hashanah, there are many beautiful traditions, what people eat in the night of Rosh Hashanah. I'm sure that everybody eats the apple dipped in honey, right? And for sure, that's easy, right? Now, how many of you eat in the night of Rosh Hashanah carrots? Carrots. I eat carrots. Why? Ask me why. Excellent question. I'll answer you the reason now. Because carrot has 2 messages. First of all, the roundness and the format of the carrot, it's like the eye. You ever look at the carrot? Round and has an eye. Right. So we want God to have ayin tova alenu. We want God to look at us always with goodness. But how do you call in Hebrew carrot? Gezer. Gezer. From Lashon Gezerah. I saw it in the Ish Masliach and other books. And it says, Shetigzor, Sanaoria, Shetigzor alenu gezerot tovot. Utbatel me alenu kol gezerot kashot beraot. What does that mean? God, decree upon us good decrees, and please nullify any negative decree. Another tradition is to eat egg. Not obligation, it's only a suggestion. Okay? Why egg? Because you want to have a pure year like the white of the egg. Another tradition eats sardines in the night. Yes, you come to Florida, you get to learn a lot of things that you don't hear elsewhere. All right? Why? Right. Sardines in Hebrew means sardin. Remove judgment. Sar, you're writing it down, Junior? Okay. Sardine. Sardine. Remove judgment. Quitar el juicio. You understand? There was a rabbi that in the night of Rosh Hashanah said to his congregation, remember to eat tonight raisin and celery. So the president of the shul went to the rabbi and it says, what is that? Raisin and celery. It says, it's a segula to the rabbi to get a raise in his salary. Mr. President, you listening? Good. Okay. Anyways, I know it sounds funny, but you know what the Gemara says? Shema Garim. The name, right? The name of an object, it has an influence. Right? The name affects. Not only the name of a person. Look how many derashot I gave you now, just with names of food. You know, in Argentina, I remember this as a child, that there was a fellow who said one day in the class, you have to eat mandarina in the night of Rosh Hashanah. You know why? Eli, you know why? So Hashem manda harina. What's mandarina in Spanish? Send parnasa. Manda, send. Harina, the Mishnah says, im en kema, and flour. Says send flour.
All fruits, vegetables, we don't make mistakes. Everything
Right. Yeah, right. But the halacha also writes that in the night of Rosh Hashanah, you should not eat spicy food or sour food. So you have a sweet year. Right, sweet year. Which other food people eat? I'm trying to remember. Silka. Okay, every name has a message. For example, Tamar. Why do we eat date on the night of Rosh Hashanah? To go on a date. That's a segula also. If you eat a date, you get a date. Yeah. If you're looking to get married, obviously. All right? But why do we eat Tamar? Sheitamu oyevenu. May our enemies cease to exist. So look, you're eating a piece of fruit and you're creating a commotion in Shamayim, sending a message. Take care of me. 100%. So, I gave you enough examples just for the record, especially to the virtual audience of iTorah. It's not my intention, God forbid, to change the beautiful traditions that you have. So I don't want to have any issues with your rabbis or Shalom Bayit issues, etc. I'm only throwing ideas of how even food can be something so symbolic. For example, Sa'udat Havra'ah, Chas v'Shalom, the meal that the mourners eat when they come from the burial. The first meal. You know what that meal consists of? Egg and a ka'ak or a pita bread. Round food. The circle of life. One generation comes, one generation leaves, but life continues. That's the menu. That's the menu. Lentils, of course, that's mjedra. That's the food of Avelut. That's full of mourning that we eat right before Tisha B'Av as well, because it's a national mourning. So just the name has an effect. Even the name you give a child, it also has an effect on the neshama of the child. Why? The Hidah says, Hashem, the name, is the neshama. Now, where does the Hidah learn that the name is the neshama? So if you look at the word neshama, nun, shin, mem, he, the two middle letters is shin and mem. That makes up the name. You got it? You got it, Chazak. He has the note. All right? So the two letters is good? Thank you, Chazak. I feel better now, thank God. Okay, so the two letters of the word soul means name. So you tell me your name, and I can tell you more or less what type of personality you have. I'm not saying this. The Gemara tells stories. Remember Kidor, the famous Kidor, right? Kidor Tapuchot Hema. The Gemara tells us that a group of rabbis went to a certain hotel, and it was on Friday afternoon. They had coins, they have gold on them, that's the currency back then, and they wanted to leave the money with the innkeeper, or the hotel manager. And one rabbi said, what's the big deal? Let's go to the hotel manager. We give him the money to keep it, put it on the safe till after Shabbat. Rabbi Meir says, hold on a minute. I need to know his name. He said, what difference does it make? Pedro, Moises, Juan, Isaac, Elias, what's the difference? He says, no, Shema Garim. I need to know his name. If I know his name, that will give me a hint. So what they ask him, what's your name? Oh, my name is Kidor. I ask you a question. If I say to you the word Kidor, does it mean to you anything?
No. In French?
Kidor. No, forget about French. Kidor, the name. Nothing. But there is a pasuk in the Torah that says, Kidor tahpuchot hema. Kidor means because it's a rebellious or reverting generation. What does it mean? That in Kidor's mouth, yes is no and no is yes. When Rabbi Meir heard this, he says, Tapuchot hema. He's going to come Saturday night. He's going to tell you what money. He never gave me anything. And that was the end of the story. Those that gave, they lost the money. Those who did not were able to save their money. Right? That was the story of the Gemara with Rabbi Meir and the name Kidor. Another story, where is Netanel? Is he a Netanel?
No.
Netanel Hen, where is he? He left already? Okay. You know what happened in his Berit Milah? You know the story what happened in his Berit Milah? Hacham Rabbi Yosef alav shalom was his sandak. And the father honored the rabbi to be the sandak. It's a big zechut. It's a big zechut, obviously. And when they say the verse, Veikare Shemo Be'Israel, they were about to give him the name. What the name? You remember the story? Okay, ask your father to tell you the story. And because your father said it publicly, I can say it publicly. They wanted to name the child Matan. Matan in Hebrew means what? A gift. Matana. The rabbi said, no, you cannot give that name. Why not? Because Matan was the name of the Kohen of the Baal. It was the name of a priest for idolatry. Even though it sounds like a beautiful name in Hebrew. So if your name happens to be Matan, talk to me privately. Probably we need to do a Shinui Hashem. Like somebody wanted to call his son Korah. Because it's biblical. You know, and the answer is no, you don't name Korah, you don't name Nimrod. Noah, yes. You don't name Nimrod, you don't name Korah, you don't name Bilam, you don't name Balak, you don't name Datan Ba'aviran. Any name in our Torah that is connected to something adverse, negative, or tragic, you don't use that name. Why? Because you want the Kedusha of the name, right? To follow the person. Now, comes Yonah HaNavi, the famous prophet of the story of Nineveh. Remember the Maftiri Yonah, the famous Haftarah that people purchase astronomical amount of money on the day of Yom Kippur because it's a Haftarah that carries a tremendous amount of blessing and success. Tells us the story there that Hashem summoned Yonah, right, to go to the city of Nineveh. We all know the story. Yonah refused to go. He tried to escape the land of Israel. Why did he try to escape the land of Israel? Short answer, because prophecy does not get distributed outside of Israel. Only in Israel. So once you're out of the limits of Israel, there is no prophecy. He says, you know what? I'm off the hook. But obviously we know the end of the story. Eventually Yonah came and goes to the city of Nineveh. And there the Pasuk tells us that Yonah came, spoke to the leadership of Nineveh, calling up their attentions. Your actions are inappropriate. Either change or say goodbye to the city of Nineveh. The Pasuk tells us that for 3 days, no humans or animals ate or drank anything. and anything that was stolen was returned to the original owners, even though that meant that you went overnight and you stole from your next door neighbor a bags of bricks or a bags of tiles in order to do the flooring of your kitchen. You remove the flooring, you destroy the flooring, and you return the money or the tile to the original owner. And what the pasuk says, Vayara Elokim et ma'asehem. The pasuk didn't say God saw fasting, God saw the not drinking. God says, the verse says, God saw the change of action. And that's what cancels the decree against the person. Not the lip service and not the singing. Obviously, praying helps and singing helps. But if you want to truly, truly change a decree, must be a change.
He lost his kids also.
Huh?
He lost his children.
Who are you talking about? No, that's Yerovam ben Nevat. Different fellow. Anyway, so with all that being said, I'd like to perhaps just read maybe a line from the book, because I did a lot of talking just in the introduction, but I think that this is essential to understand what are we getting into in the next 30 days. So I'm going to read very quickly the first message, and then Be'ezat Hashem, tomorrow we're going to start obviously the class a bit earlier, since it's a regular day. Tomorrow no Rosh Chodesh and Selichot is before prayers, so we're going to have enough time to learn without pressure. But let's all read together. Ha'adam ra'ui sheidame lekono. One short sentence. The person, it's proper for him to emulate God. Why? Because if we don't emulate God, so that creates like a short circuit between our body and our soul. Our neshama, our soul, is connected to Hashem. And that's why we say every day in the morning, Elokai, neshama shenatata bi tehorahi, ata verata. We say before that, Modeani, shehezarta bi nishmati. The neshama is kodesh. And the body and the neshama, they need to supplement each other. So the body needs the soul to function, and the neshama needs the body to have a purpose. Because if there is no container for the neshama, like the human body, how the neshama develops itself, how the neshama can achieve anything. Only through the combination of the physical and the spiritual, that's when a person is able to fulfill the mission in the world. So it says Rabino Moshe Cordovero, and it says as follows, that a person must make the effort that the body and soul are united as one. Is it automatic? No. Is it easy? No. Is it impossible? No. Everything is possible. We just need to have the mindset and to understand exactly what we need to do. So he begins with the first message, and it says, Miel kamocha, who is like God? What does this verse means? So the first message that he says is that God is called Melech Ne'elav Sobel Elbon. God is a king that is mistreated. You know what the meaning of the word mistreating? Not treating someone properly. Let me ask you, if somebody...
Lack of respect.
Correct, lack of respect. Now, imagine yourself, somebody doesn't respect you, or somebody insults you. Are they going to be your friend? Most likely not. You're going to be cordial, respectful, good morning, good night, shalom, shana tova, no more than that. And it's understood. Why? Because you say, if this person mistreats me or doesn't respect me, why should I have a relationship with them? But you know what Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says? That we mistreat God, we insult God, we abandon God through our actions, and yet he says, God still loves us, and God still provides for us, irrelevant of our behavior. Can you imagine if our blessing or success will be determined based on our behavior? So one day you will have what to eat, one day we will not have what to eat, one day we will have access to a car, one day we don't have access to a car because the day before wasn't good. But does that happen? No. Your bank account is your bank account, your leased vehicle is your leased vehicle, your condominium is there, and everything is smooth and easygoing. So where does that come from? So he concludes in the first introductory statement, and it says, this comes from the midat hasablanut. Sablanut. What's sablanut means? Tolerant and patient. To have patience. Pele Yoes. It says the following. To have patience, sablanut, is not optional. It's not like a multiple choice question. Do I have tolerance? No, yes, all of the above. Yes, no, no, yes, maybe so. It says the Pele Yoes, sablanut is not negotiable. It's a mandatory requirement that every person needs to have. Yes, he says, sablanut must be calibrated. With a child is a certain level of patience. With an adult is a different level of patience. If you're a rabbi, it's a whole different ballgame when it comes to patience. If you're a father or a spouse or a wife, it's different parameters of patience. But it says, davar ehrechi me'od. We must all have it. We all have it. The question is, how much do we have? There are some people that they are barely any level of tolerance. They are impulsive, so to speak. They blow up, they explode, they jump immediately. That's not good neither. Because that means that that person doesn't have patience, self-control, tolerance. When God created the world, in how many days was the world created? A whole week. You tell me that God couldn't do it in 1 second? But God took 1 day at a time. 1 day at a time. How many times we say when a person needs to make a decision, let me sleep on it? Why? That comes from the Torah, by the way. The concept of let me sleep on it, Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, in one of the rebellions of the desert, he says, Mahar. Mahar. Tomorrow we'll discuss it. Today, in the heat of the moment, to discuss and to make a decision, it could be catastrophic. But if I sleep on it, I'm more calm, I'm more collective, I'm more thoughtful, I'm going to be able to make the right decision. So it says, Tomer Devora at the end of chapter 1, like Hashem is tolerant, and Hashem has tremendous amount of patience, even when our deeds are not the proper way. And God says, I'll give you another chance, I'll give you another chance. The only thing that we have an issue with is that we don't know how many chances each person is given. There is no chart. Some people could be 10 days, some people could be 10 years, some people could be 10 weeks, some people could be an hour. We don't have that answer. But it says that beautiful attribute of Hashem that is tolerant with us. Can you imagine, and I repeat this again, if God will determine our day's success based on yesterday's performance? That's not good. Because what happened if, God forbid, yesterday, Chas v'shalom, someone didn't have a good spiritual day? So it means that today I'm doomed. Today I can say Kaddish, stay in bed, because nothing good will happen to you because of yesterday. Thank God that is not the way that Hashem runs the world. So it says, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, take that and bring it into your life. With your wife, with your kids, with your friends, with your students, with your relatives. I'm not saying that it's automatic after we finish closing the book. I already closed it, but I'm still talking. I don't know why, but okay. Thank God I can do that sometimes. Okay? So it says, you take that and look around your life and see where you're able to expand some of this tolerance that the Rabbi Moshe Cordovero talks about. And obviously, this belly nether will finish. Usually that means I'm going 10 more minutes. But I'm going to finish now because Kolel starts and you have to be on time the first day, right? At least. So it says as follows. Start at home. Start in your home. With your wife, with your children. If Baruch Hashem, everything is beautiful in your home, go the extra mile. Or if you're single and you're still living in your parents' home and thank God everything is wonderful, chazak, do it with your friends. With your friends, with your circle, with your relatives. And gradually, the more we develop, because what's the beautiful part of it is that the more we develop these concepts, which as I said in the beginning of the class, have nothing to do with Jewish law. This is universal. Not for Yehudim only, but this is universal messages to society. If the world will be more patient, you will not hear the horn, and people will not curse, and people will not have road rage, and people will not go into madness, into crazy ways of acting, if people will have more sablanut. But obviously I'm not talking to the world. I'm talking to us. I'm talking to myself, and you happen to be listening. And that's what it says. It says that if we are able to bring over this beautiful midah to our fellow men, Hashem reciprocates that to us. And the more patience Hashem has for us, the more chances the person has to do teshuvah out of ahava, out of love, and not out of fear. Because sometimes people do teshuvah out of fear. God is calling you every day. God is waking you up. He says, you know what? I better change. But you make the change before God calls you. That's called teshuvah me'ahava.